In this week's Beyond the Ballot report, we're digging into an amendment to the state's constitution. The proposal would dedicate funding from renewable energy sources like wind or solar to the state's Coastal Restoration Fund. With money from the 2010 BP oil spill set to run out in the next few years, state leaders want to make sure that we keep making progress on our coastal projects.
State Representative Joseph Orgeron's District 54 encompasses Lafourche and Jefferson parishes. It's home to shrimpers and workers servicing the offshore oil and gas industries out of nearby Port Fourchon. District 54 is the canary in the coal mine for climate change and the poster child for coastal restoration efforts.
It starts at Highway 90, and it's basically the long finger of dry land that extends down towards Port Fourchon and Grand Isle. Whenever a hurricane passes and Port Fourchon has to close completely, it equates to a $500 million per day hit on the nation's gross domestic product. So getting this access for trucks and people back and forth is very important.
Representative Orgeron authored legislation that is the root of Constitutional Amendment Number 1 on the November 5th ballot. It dedicates future revenues from alternative or offshore energy industries to coastal restoration.
The primary purpose of the legislation was basically to fold in all of the above energies beyond oil and gas that would be produced offshore in the Gulf of Mexico, and have any federal revenue that Louisiana receives to also go to coastal protection and restoration.
Louisiana's 50-year, $50 billion coastal restoration master plan faces a future funding shortfall when the Deepwater Horizon oil spill settlement money expires in 2031.
The way it's funded is we really have two sources of revenue, both recurring and non-recurring. On the recurring side, we have state and federal, which is through the state mineral revenue and through GOMESA, the Gulf of Mexico Energy Security Act. And that dedicates oil and gas revenue to our coastal restoration and protection projects. On the non-recurring side, we have primarily the Deepwater Horizon spill settlement dollars. Those are the dollars that were dedicated to restoring the areas that were damaged from the Deepwater Horizon spill. And so that's really our largest funding source at this time.
At the federal level, Congressman Bill Cassidy is the lead Republican author of the RISE Act, companion legislation that also dedicates offshore renewable energy revenues to Louisiana's coastal restoration efforts and raises the current GOMESA cap on oil and gas revenue sharing.
It's two federal pieces of legislation that add to federal revenue sharing, offshore wind, renewables, alternative energy, so that states, even on the East Coast, can partake in this.
Coastal Protection and Restoration Authority originated in the aftermath of Hurricane Katrina. The state entity is charged with developing and implementing coastal protection and restoration efforts, working with federal, state, and local political subdivisions, including levee districts.
Are there other revenue sources that we're looking at to replace the Deepwater Horizon oil spill money?
Yes, we're working hard to look for other alternative revenue sources. An example of that, we are working on some innovative research with the Water Institute of the Gulf to try to find ways to creatively receive revenue from the restoration projects that we build. And so those measures are often called blue carbon, where we're storing and sequestering carbon with the marsh creation projects, with the mangrove projects that we're restoring and building, and then we're hopefully we'll receive revenue from that in the future from companies that are looking to offset their carbon footprint.
Constitutional Amendment Number 1 aims to capitalize on future revenues as renewable energies develop.
In the offshore wind developers' best dreams, it would account to 10 to 15% of what we produce with oil and gas. And that's primarily because you could only get it from the lease sales, which are like bonus bids on the lease sales, as well as wheeling agreements, which is moving energy across boundaries and geopolitical districts and things like that.
Representative Orgeron estimates renewable energies could generate about $25 million annually to shore up Louisiana's coastlines.
It's important that we continue to fund the coastal restoration projects to produce the I'm going to call it the incubator marsh area That is where shrimp and redfish and trout basically grew up. It's the nursery for a very lucrative sportsman's activity here. So I think all of these are tied together, that the offshore energy infrastructure sector needs to take care of the coast, and then the coast will take care of the rest of Louisiana.